First up, we got Elliot Page. Elliot Page might be the only person that has directly called out Chris Pratt for his affiliation with the controversial Hillsong Church. Pratt spoke about the church with Stephen Colbert on his show, opening up further about his spirituality, but his comments did not sit well with Page, who took to Twitter to call out Pratt. Elliot tweeted, quote, "Okay, but his church is infamously anti-LGBTQ, so maybe address that too?" Adding in a follow-up tweet, quote, "If you are a famous actor and you belong to an organization that hates a certain group of people, don't be surprised if someone simply wonders why it's not addressed. Being anti-LGBTQ is wrong, there aren't two sides. The damage it causes is severe, full stop, sending love to all." After the situation got tons of media attention, Pratt took to Instagram to share his side of the story. Pratt wrote in part, quote, "It's been recently suggested that I belong to a church which hates people and is infamously anti-LGBTQ. Nothing could be further from the truth. I go to a church that opens their doors to absolutely everyone," adding that he's not the spokesperson for the Hillsong Church or any other group of people. And even though this is the most public feud that Pratt has been in regarding his support of LGBTQ people, many users online also allege that Pratt does not support gay marriage either. Next up, Dylan O'Brien. Dylan O'Brien was another star that got involved in the Chris Pratt-Elliot Page drama. After Elliot tweeted out asking Pratt to comment on the anti-LGBTQ nature of the church, Dylan supported that stance and quote tweeted Elliot's tweet, adding quote, "I second this." I don't believe Dylan commented any further on the matter, but he made sure to voice that he also had questions surrounding the inclusivity of the Hillsong Church. Next up, Anna Faris. Anna Faris and Pratt are now divorced, but they got married in 2009 and were together until they split in 2017. But since their split, Anna has described some things about their relationship that have some questioning Pratt. Speaking to guest Rachel Bilson on the May 3rd episode of her podcast, Anna Faris is Unqualified, Faris said she felt her quote hand was forced in the divorce from Pratt. When speaking about past relationships, Anna said quote, "For me, I think after every breakup at some point I realized that there were a lot of things I ignored that I really shouldn't have. In hindsight, it felt like my hand was forced. I don't think it was ever an independent decision." She also described that in her relationship with Pratt, she would never open up about the struggles that she had or the things that she was facing. She also said her lack of close girlfriends made it harder for her to open up about her struggles in her relationship. Faris added quote, "I think it stunted me in a lot of ways, one of them being that I never talked about any issues, so to the people even who I was closest to, I'm sure things were more transparent with my relationship with Ben, but with Chris, I think we both protected that imagery even within our close circles." Basically saying that they both protected their image rather than actually working through their issues. Next up, Brie Larson. Brie did not directly call out Chris for anything, but Brie Larson was the catalyst that showed us just how sexist Hollywood can be. During the infamous scandal where the internet unanimously voted that Chris Pratt was the worst Chris, Pratt's Marvel co-stars like Mark Ruffalo and Robert Downey Jr. made a point to defend him against the hate. Both men, along with other MCU actors, jumped in to defend Pratt and share their positive stories with him. And although that support was deemed innocent at the time, it was then questioned why women like Brie Larson don't get the same treatment. After Brie Larson spoke out about diversity in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, saying that the MCU needed to be more diverse, she got intense backlash from Marvel fans, and the only MCU star that defended her at the time was Don Cheadle. Many took this to be blatant sexism. Next up, Jason Momoa. In December of 2019, Chris Pratt did a brand deal with Amazon where he shared his workouts with the world. In the photo, he's wearing workout gear next to a treadmill and holding a water bottle, clearly trying to show that he had just worked out. The response on the photo was great, and tons of Pratt's fans were swooning after the star. But fellow actor Jason Momoa had a different take on the photo and decided to share his disappointment with the water bottle choice. Momoa wrote, quote, "Bro, I love you, but what the F on the water bottle? No single-use plastic, come on." However, it seemed the public opinion actually sided with Pratt on this one, and Momoa ended up apologizing to Pratt on his Instagram. In Momoa's photo with Pratt and his kids, he wrote, quote, "Bro, you know my children and I are madly in love with you and I love everything you do. I'm sorry this was received so badly today, I didn't mean for that to happen." Next one, Chris Evans. Before Anna Faris and Chris Pratt broke up, Pratt starred in the film Passengers with Jennifer Lawrence, which created a lot of cheating buzz, because Jennifer and Chris Pratt were love interests in the film. Anna Faris had a hard time with the press saying that Jen and Chris were in love and cheating together. But apparently Jennifer Lawrence was very kind and was very apologetic even though she hadn't done anything wrong. But even though Anna had to suck it up and take it, it seems that wasn't the case for Chris Pratt when Anna was starring in a movie of her own with Chris Evans. While Anna and Chris Evans were filming romantic comedy What's Your Number, Pratt would apparently, quote, "bring up my kissing scenes with Chris Evans casually," with Faris writing in her book that he was never overt. Apparently Pratt would also casually ask, quote, "so when do you have to do that love scene with Evans?" And finally, Chris Pratt himself. The person that keeps getting Pratt in the most trouble is himself. I think over the years he has toned down on anything controversial, but there is a reason people assume he is a Republican and a Trump supporter. One thing that raised a lot of eyebrows was when he wore a top with a mashup of a Gadsden flag, which was designed during the American Revolution, and a modern US flag. The Gadsden flag involves a coiled rattlesnake over a message that reads, "Don't tread on me." The message has been used in a variety of ways over the years, but it's also been adopted by far-right political groups and Second Amendment supporters. So when Pratt decided to wear it out in 2019, many felt this was more proof he is a Republican. One person even tweeted about the shirt, quote, "Nice shirt. Only people I see with that flag are alt-right racists." Pratt also got a lot of heat for not attending a Joe Biden fundraiser ahead of his election, even though the entire Avengers cast was in attendance. Many felt this was more proof he was supporting Trump in that election. First up, Ming-Na Wen. Scarlett has had a ton of controversial moments in her career, but I think this one easily got the most media coverage and pushback. When Steven Spielberg got the rights to remake a Japanese movie called Ghost in the Shell, he cast Johansson in the lead role. The role was called Major, a cyborg soldier with a human brain and a cybernetic body, who is the main character. Although the project was a huge hit in Asia and was expected to do similar numbers in North America, this casting decision led the movie to be a flop, because fans accused the movie of whitewashing. The public called on the studio to cast an Asian woman in the role instead of a white woman, since it was based on a Japanese character. Months later, Stephen Paul, a producer on the film, defended the decision to cast Johansson as Major, explaining to BuzzFeed News that Sanders' Ghost in the Shell adaptation takes place in an international world, adding that it isn't just a Japanese story and it does not just focus on Japan, rather the whole world. Johansson also did not back down when asked about the casting and stood by the decision. When talking about it with Mary Claire, she said, quote, "I never presumed to play another race. Diversity is important in Hollywood, and I would never want to feel like I was playing a character that was offensive." She then pivoted to talk about how amazing it is to have a woman heading a huge franchise like this. Johansson also defended the choice by stating that the character is a human brain inside of a machine body, making it identity-less. But Asian actors did not agree with Johansson's take and shared how disappointed they were in the casting choice. When the photo of Johansson in the film came out, Ming-Na Wen, who stars on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., tweeted, quote, "Nothing against Scarlett Johansson, in fact I'm a big fan, but everything against this whitewashing of Asian role." Many other actors shared similar sentiments about whitewashing the franchise. Harvey Weinstein. In 2017, the terrible actions of movie producer Harvey Weinstein were exposed to the public, and plenty of actresses came forward sharing their experiences working with him. Many shared that they had to perform sexual favors in exchange for roles. In light of all the terrible press surrounding Weinstein, many actresses boycotted Weinstein and his family, including his wife at the time, Georgina Chapman, who founded the clothing brand Marchesa. However, Scarlett did not boycott Marchesa, and instead she decided to show off the designer by wearing them at the Met Gala that year. Multiple actresses also came forward to share that Weinstein previously pressured and even threatened them to wear Marchesa to events, so many felt his wife was in cahoots with him. Many people questioned why Johansson, a supporter of both Me Too and Time's Up, decided to publicly support Chapman's designs. She explained herself in an interview with Entertainment Tonight, saying, quote, "I wore Marchesa because their clothes make women feel confident and beautiful. It's my pleasure to support a brand created by two incredibly talented and important female designers." Jamie Clayton. In 2018, Johansson had another casting blunder when she signed up to play the role of Dante Tex Gill, a trans man that operated a massage parlor business in the 70s, in the film Rub and Tug. The LGBTQ+ community and its allies argued that the role should have gone to a trans actor, not a cisgender woman, and said it contributed to trans erasure. Even with all the criticism, Johansson once again stood her ground and defended the casting. Mainly, she tried to take the blame off herself and put it onto other cis actors who had played trans characters in the past. Johansson told Bustle at the time, quote, "Tell them they can be directed to Jeffrey Tambor, Jared Leto, and Felicity Huffman's refs for comment. This is because Jeffrey Tambor played a trans woman on Transparent, Jared Leto was cast as a trans woman in Dallas Buyers Club, and Felicity Huffman took on a role as a trans woman in Trans America." However, since the backlash with the project did not stop, Johansson later decided to leave the project. Johansson went on to say she understood why people felt that Dante should be played by a trans actor, adding that she's grateful to participate in a controversial debate that sparked a larger conversation about diversity and representation in film. She said later that she mishandled the backlash. Trans actor Jamie Clayton shared their thoughts in a tweet, writing, quote, "Actors who are trans never even get to audition for anything other than trans characters. That's the real issue. We can't even get in the room. Cast actors who are trans as non-trans characters, I dare you. However, the drama with this casting did not end there, and Johansson said more controversial statements surrounding this topic a year later, saying that she should be able to play any character that she wants. Quote, "You know, as an actor I should be allowed to play any person, or any tree, or any animal, because that is my job and the requirements of my job." Adding, quote, "Today there's a lot of emphasis and conversation about what acting is and who we want to see represent ourselves on screen. The question now is, what is acting anyway?" However, she later said that her controversial comments were taken out of context and it was edited for clickbait. She later clarified, saying, quote, "I personally feel that in an ideal world, any actor should be able to play anybody in art, and all forms should be immune to political correctness. That is the point I was making, albeit it didn't come across that way." Woody Allen. Another controversial take from Scarlett was her support of Woody Allen during his scandal, where he is accused of sexual misconduct by several women, including Dylan Farrow, who is the child of Mia Farrow, whom Allen married. After this, many women took Dylan Farrow's side and boycotted Allen. However, Scarlett was not one of them and actually defended Woody Allen. Johansson had worked with Allen on films like Match Point, Scoop, and Vicky Cristina Barcelona, and she said in 2019 that she would still work with him if the opportunity came up. After the allegations surfaced, Johansson said in an interview, quote, "I love Woody. I believe him and I would work with him anytime." Apparently she speaks with him often, and the pair have had many conversations about these allegations. She added, quote, "I've been very direct with him and he's very direct with me. He maintains his innocence and I believe him." This is not only very problematic but also hypocritical, because Scarlett publicly called out James Franco for supporting Time's Up before 5 women accused him of misconduct. Dylan Farrow also called out Scarlett on Twitter, quote, "If we've learned anything from the past 2 years is that you definitely should believe men who maintain their innocence without question. Scarlett has a long way to go in understanding the issues she claims to champion," referring to the actor's public support of Me Too and Time's Up. Months later, in her 2019 Vanity cover story, Johansson doubled down on her previous comments about Allen. Quote, "It's my experience, I don't know any more than any other person knows. I only have a close proximity with Woody. He's a friend of mine. I have no other insight other than my relationship with him." Continuing that she doesn't want to lie or edit herself, and she wants to openly share her opinions on the matter. Benedict Cumberbatch. Recently, Scarlett Johansson got tons of press after she decided to sue Disney over their Black Widow premiere. It's common for actors to get a portion of the box office numbers, but Scarlett felt she was not given a fair amount by Disney because they decided to premiere the movie at home on Disney Plus as well as in theaters, which made the theater sum significantly smaller than usual. Fellow Disney star Benedict Cumberbatch reacted to the news, calling the ordeal, quote, "a bit of a mess." During a wide-ranging profile with The Hollywood Reporter, Benedict Cumberbatch said he thought it was sad how the whole thing was unfolding. The lawsuit claims that Johansson lost untold potential revenue while Disney execs profited by growing the Disney Plus streaming services base at the same time. Disney fired back, calling the lawsuit sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the new state of the world due to lockdown measures. When asked about the legal turmoil with his co-star, Cumberbatch said, quote, "It's sad what's going on between the lawyers, but he said we need to put it in context of what's happening in the world right now," adding, quote, "The whole thing's just a bit of a mess. We're trying to understand what the revenue stream should be for artists to contribute to the billion-dollar business that is Disney, and it has to be contractualized." Many were surprised that he didn't all-out support Johansson like other stars had at the time. WandaVision star Emily Olsen called the move brave, and she fiercely defended Johansson's decision. Jennifer Lawrence. This is one we're not sure is a real feud or not, but sources claim that since Lauren and Johansson are both engaged and plan to wed in New York City, they're trying to upstage each other with their weddings. According to the outlet, Johansson and Lawrence have never liked each other, and the situation is getting worse now that they're both planning weddings in the New York area. The source said they definitely want to outshine each other on their big days, and it's assumed their weddings will take place shortly after one another's. Apparently, Johansson has always been a little envious of the roles that Jen's got over her, because Scarlett believes she's more talented than Jen. Apparently, Scarlett also doesn't like Jen's quirky personality and finds it annoying, adding, quote, "She feels Jennifer is a bit of a phony." The feud was taken up a notch when both women looked at the same venue for their wedding in the Hamptons, but they don't want to get married at the same place, so they are keeping serious tabs on one another. First up, Chris Hemsworth and Don Cheadle. Chris Hemsworth and Don Cheadle did an interview with Larson in 2019 to promote their latest film, Avengers Endgame, but it was clear during the interview that Hemsworth and Cheadle do not like Brie Larson, and anytime she spoke, they made their disdain very clear. While speaking to Entertainment Tonight, the trio got on the topic topic of stunt doubles, and Hemsworth stated he does a lot of his own stunts, but not the more dangerous things. Larson then chimed in that she does all of her own stunts because she believed that's what everyone else did. Hemsworth even mockingly praised her as the next Tom Cruise, as Tom Cruise famously does all of his own stunts. Many felt it was rude that she butted in to make those comments while Hemsworth was praising the work of his stunt doubles. And worst of all, the quartering later exposed that Larson did use a stunt double and she wasn't even telling the truth. Then the topic of which of their superhero characters was the strongest came up, and Larson replied, quote, "There's no competition for me because I'm the strongest." In response, Hemsworth said, quote, "Meh, we'll let her think that." Then there was an incident with Cheadle. While Larson was talking about something involving the three of them, Larson started hitting both men with their elbows in a playful way, kind of like this thing. But it was obvious that Cheadle was not having any of it and even flat out told her to stop, not in a playful way. Body language experts broke down the interaction and it was clear that he was not pleased. One expert named Mandy O'Brien made a video breaking down the entire interview, criticizing Larson's appearance and behavior during the Marvel movies press tour. During the interview with Cheadle and Hemsworth, O'Brien said that the men were relaxed while Larson's body language was domineering and stiff. O'Brien felt that Larson was trying to be taller than the men, essentially trying to dominate them, which obviously is not a behavior that will develop a friendship between coworkers. O'Brien added, quote, "I guess in her mind, domination equals acceptance. In reality, submission will get you a lot further in friendship circles than trying to dominate and boss everyone around." Next up, Jeremy Renner. Clearly, Brie Larson is not very good in interviews, and she had another awkward interaction with her co-star Jeremy Renner during an interview. The topic of discussion was being a celebrity and being conscious of their platforms. Larson responded, quote, "I'm committed to self-improvement. I work at being the best person that I can be and using this platform for as much good as I can. That doesn't mean I don't make mistakes, but I'm very comfortable with that, allowing myself to learn from those mistakes." During the conversation, Renner looks completely annoyed, like he's holding back an eye roll. When it's his turn to speak, Renner says, quote, "I'm pretty accountable and responsible in my own life at any rate. Celebrity is not something I use any sort of platform to be more responsible or accountable, I suppose." Basically firing back at Larson's idea that being a celebrity means she needs to be a voice for social issues. Next up, fan boycott. Following all the backlash against Larson and the clear dislike of her by her co-stars, it was not a shock to see that petitions popped up trying to axe Larson from the next Captain Marvel film. Unfortunately for fans, the movie did get a sequel starring Larson, but it was clear that Marvel made some changes to please their fans and made the sequel named The Marvels instead, meaning instead of solely focusing on Larson's character, the movie would also showcase other Marvel superheroes. And it's very clearly a demotion from her last role. Based on the performance of this upcoming film, her time with MCU could end for good. And this is not the only project that Larson has been demoted in. The Marvel animated series named What If also demoted and replaced Larson in the show. The show features Marvel's biggest stars like Michael B. Jordan, Sebastian Stan, and Tom Hiddleston. However, Larson was shockingly replaced in the series by up-and-coming actress Alexandra Daniels. Daniels opened up to her fans during a Twitch stream about getting that part in Marvel's animated series, saying, quote, "When I auditioned, they were looking for a Brie Larson voice double, so they sent a clip of Brie Larson from the movie and I was like, cool, I can do that. And I did it, and like a month later, they were like, you booked it, and that was my first voice job ever." She continued that she thought she would not get any credit because she was just going to be a voice double. But then she was surprisingly given credit in the first episode and it was clear that she was going to be a real character. More bad news for Brie Larson. And finally, Brie Larson herself. Back in 2018, Brie Larson got in a huge scandal when she was accused of being a, quote, "white man hater" after a slew of questionable interviews. After she was cast as Captain Marvel, the predominantly male fanbase was not happy. According to Screen Rant, a small group of extremely vocal fans pushed back at the female-centric film. Then Larson made some comments about diversity and gender that made matters much worse. In 2018, while accepting an award at the Crystal and Lucy Awards, Larson decided to comment on the fact that so many movie critics are white men. She said, quote, "I don't need a 40-year-old white dude to tell me what didn't work for him." She went on to speak about the movie A Wrinkle in Time, saying that it was not made for white men, and she wants to hear what women of color think about the movie. She repeated that she, quote, "does not hate white dudes" throughout her speech, rather she just wants diversity. Even though she got some heat for those comments, she doubled down on them a year later in an interview with Marie Claire UK. She said about the topic of movie reviews, quote, "I started paying attention to what my press days looked like, the critics reviewing movies, and noticed it appeared to be overwhelmingly white males." These comments sparked backlash from men's rights groups who tried to start a boycott against Captain Marvel. In 2019, Cinema Blend reported that Larson clarified her comments by saying, quote, "What I'm looking for is to bring more seats to the table." Although many felt she took a stance of exclusion rather than inclusion. Brie Larson also got the attention of all her haters when she launched her own YouTube channel. Her first video was called "So I Made a Decision," announcing the channel. It got great views, over 500,000 in less than a day, and over 127,000 subscribers. But the dislikes on the video were very high. In that time, the video raked up over 50,000 likes, but 18,000 dislikes, with some of the comments saying that the dislikes should be way higher. One comment read that when they first saw the video, it had 18,000 dislikes, but when they came back to it about an hour later, it only had 17,000 dislikes, so 1,000 less, meaning that she was potentially covering it up and getting rid of them somehow. This was even more proof for her haters that she was just a liar. Another scandal that got Larson in some serious heat was when she lied about her casting in Captain Marvel. Fans respect that she has to keep it a secret for the sake of contracts, but the way she went about it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. According to Cheat Sheet, a month before Marvel confirmed that Larson had been cast as Carol Danvers and the 2016 Comic-Con, a reporter asked her about the upcoming movie, trying to get the inside scoop on the role. To the question of if she was playing the role, Larson responded, quote, "Who's Captain Marvel?" She continued to play dumb, saying, quote, "So I would be playing a man? I'm down to play Chris Evans. Oh wait, no, Chris Evans is Captain America. Who's Captain Marvel? I have no idea what I'm talking about." Since they announced only a few days later, it's clear that she knew what was going on. But the annoying way that she went about it really rubbed people the wrong way. Starting off, we got Taylor Swift. Jake Gyllenhaal has come back into the spotlight purely because of Taylor Swift's recent 10-minute release of her hit song All Too Well. The first version was 5 minutes, but for the re-release of the album Red, she included the original length of the song, which was 10 minutes. In the song, Taylor is agonizing over a past relationship and singing about her heartbreak. From the Easter eggs she's given us, her fanbase has widely regarded this relationship was with actor Jake Gyllenhaal. Swift, now 31, dated Gyllenhaal, now 40, for 3 months in late 2010. She then channeled her emotions to make the hit album Red in 2012. Taylor also released a short film along with a 10-minute version of the song, and cast Dylan O'Brien, who is 30, and Sadie Sink, who is 19, in the All Too Well short film, which happens to be a very similar age difference to her and Jake Gyllenhaal during their relationship. Taylor calls out Jake in the line, quote, "And I was never good at telling jokes, but the punchline goes, I'll get older, but your lovers stay my age." This line especially hits hard since Jake is currently dating a woman 16 years younger than him. In the song, she says that apparently Jake Gyllenhaal claimed that they might still be together if they were closer in age. Even though most people are on Taylor's side, many are criticizing how harshly that she's painting Jake, as it was only a 3-month relationship, but it's widely believed that Jake Gyllenhaal was her first real boyfriend, so clearly very pivotal to her life. In the song, Swift references an unnamed actress who caught her, quote, "weeping in a party bathroom," and asked what happened. Fans have speculated the actress was Jennifer Aniston at the People's Choice Awards, but of course nothing's been confirmed. Another line of the song paints a picture of Jake not showing up to Taylor's 21st birthday party. The line goes, quote, "You who charmed my dad with self-effacing jokes, sipping coffee like you're on a late night show, but then he watched me watch the front door all night, willing you to come, and he said, it's supposed to be fun turning 21. In response to the new version of the song and all the negative media attention that he's getting, Jake Gyllenhaal is apparently mortified. A source claimed, quote, "Jake is mortified that Taylor is targeting him in All Too Well. He's such a private person and goes out of his way to avoid drama, so having their 3-month fling dragged up in this song and hearing people gossip about it is a hard pill for him to swallow." Next up, David Fincher. David Fincher and Jake Gyllenhaal worked together on 2007's Zodiac. But following the film's release, it's clear the pair had a lot of tension while filming. In one interview, Gyllenhaal hinted that he didn't have a good relationship with the director. Apparently a big issue is that Fincher likes to get tons of takes from his actors so that he can be sure he's gotten the best one. Gyllenhaal doesn't like this method and believes it goes too far. Years later, in a new interview with the New York Times, Fincher cleared the air on the drama. Fincher says that at the time, Gyllenhaal was a hot new actor and had a lot of attention from the media. Because of this, he was very distracted and it was hard for him to work with someone that demanded perfection. Fincher added that Gyllenhaal would go to various film festivals over the weekend, and when he would show up to set on Monday, he would be scatterbrained. Next up, Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal became besties after they worked together on the 2017 sci-fi horror film Life. After the movie, the pair would attend events together and talk about one another in the press. It was very clear that they spent a lot of time together. Then all of a sudden the pair had a falling out and no longer talk. One source claims the falling out was due to competition. Apparently tension started once the pair realized that they were competing for similar roles. Currently it seems that Reynolds is the one winning in the acting game, as he is the face of huge movies like Free Guy and Red Notice. while Gyllenhaal has not done anything notable in years. His last role of that caliber was in Spider-Man: Far From Home in 2019. The source added, quote, "All their friends chalk up their falling out to show business. Ryan and Jake realize that in Hollywood, there are so many seats at the table." Years back when the pair were friends, Gyllenhaal told BBC's The One Show that he didn't feel threatened by Reynolds. Apparently he felt the dynamic between the two of them was perfect, and there was no competition or jealousy at that time. But now that Reynolds has become a much bigger star, people believe that Gyllenhaal's mind was the one that changed, and he started distancing from Reynolds because he was bitter. Jan Cadeau. Now that Jake Gyllenhaal's relationships are being analyzed in the media, people are realizing that Taylor's line in the All Too Well song is pretty accurate, and Jake Gyllenhaal has a tendency to date younger women. Jake Gyllenhaal's current relationship is with French model Jan Cadeau, who is 25 years old. But what makes things fishy is the fact that they have been dating since 2018, so Cadeau would have been about 22 years old when they first started dating. The pair are very private, and they only went public in May of this year. They walked the red carpet at the New York Film Festival in September. They were accompanied by Jake's sister Maggie and her husband Peter Skarsgård. Jan Cadeau is 25 years old, giving her and Jake a 15-year age gap as he is 40. In Taylor's song All Too Well, she added the line, quote, "I'll get older but your lovers stay my age." Which many think is pretty timely considering the age gap in his current relationship. And even though Gyllenhaal has been in a number of long-term relationships over the years, he admitted in one interview that he's only been in love twice. That got the internet scrambling to see who those women could be. Most speculate those women to be Reese Witherspoon and Kirsten Dunst. And finally, himself. Jake Gyllenhaal completely exposed himself when he revealed that he doesn't make bathing a priority. He told Vanity Fair back in August, quote, "More and more I find bathing to be less necessary at times. I do also think that there's a whole world of not bathing that is also really helpful for skin maintenance, and we naturally clean ourselves." Although he wants everyone to know he is not dirty and that he brushes his teeth often. He said, quote, "I do believe because Elvis Costello is wonderful that good manners and bad breath get you nowhere, so I do brush my teeth." These comments were made at a time when celebrities were coming forward sharing that they do not bathe daily. The conversation first started when Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher revealed that they don't bathe their kids daily, only when they see dirt on them. But after the comments went viral, Gyllenhaal somewhat regretted them and clarified his comments to BuzzFeed. Apparently he was being sarcastic when he gave that last answer. He said, quote, "I don't know what it was. I answered a question where I was being sarcastic and ironic, and it's followed me around." Continuing to joke about the subject, he added, quote, "Unfortunately, I showered before I came here, so I'm sorry." Firstly, we got Jessica Alba. Both Jessica Alba and Gwyneth Paltrow are lifestyle gurus that focus on clean beauty and natural products. So you'd think that these two would be the best of friends, considering they have so much in common. But it seems to be the exact opposite, and these two essentially hate each other. Gwyneth of course owns Goop, while Jessica Alba owns The Honest Company, which aims to emphasize household products to supply the marketplace for ethical consumerism. And they actually sell her products in Shoppers Drug Mart here in Canada, so that's very cool. Their relationship was put to the test on the set of their TV series Planet of the Apps, where it was made clear that they hate each other. One insider claimed that the pair were like oil and water, to the point where it was shocking that they could agree on anything. Both women also took jabs at the other's company. Paltrow made a point to say Goop was an ethical company, contrasting legal claims that The Honest Company was not. Jessica Alba responded by claiming Goop was only for the wealthy and that The Honest Company caters to real women. Of course, these disagreements spilled over to the show. Jessica is very hands-on while producing, while Gwyneth prefers to delegate tasks. The series never made it past the first season, I wonder why. Next up, Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart and Gwyneth Paltrow have been throwing subtle digs at each other for years, and it's clear that they do not like one another. It seems that Martha might actually be the one throwing most of the shade, if you can believe it. The feud started in 2014 when Martha was asked about Gwyneth for some reason. When speaking to Porter magazine, Stewart said that Paltrow, quote, "just needs to be quiet. She's a movie star. If she were confident in her acting, she wouldn't be trying to be Martha Stewart." Clearly Martha thinks that Gwyneth is trying to take her place as a home and lifestyle guru. But that's not all. Martha took another swipe at Paltrow when she published a spread in Martha Stewart Living about a pie called Conscious Coupling, which is clearly a reference to Paltrow's conscious uncoupling from her ex-husband Chris Martin. Paltrow decided to hit back by making a Goop recipe for, quote, jailbird cake to reference Martha's time behind bars. Martha then took another dig on a 2017 episode of Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen when Martha asked, "Who's Goop?" Classic Mariah Carey stuff, if you get that joke. Next up, Sebastian Stan. Sebastian Stan is another celebrity that has shaded Gwyneth Paltrow in the past. Whether it was serious or not is the real question. It's been said before that Gwyneth does not have a good memory, as she often forgets that she's met or even worked with people before. One of the people she's forgotten was Sebastian Stan, even though they were both in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and they even starred in the same movies at one point, in Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Even with that, Gwyneth still did not remember who he was. Sebastian exposed this to the world on Instagram. While they were both at Paris Fashion Week, they snapped a photo together in a big group, and his caption read, quote, "Glad I got to reintroduce myself to Gwyneth Paltrow for the third time," adding, quote, "We're in the same film," to make things even more shady. Hopefully Gwyneth took the shade well and doesn't forget him again. How could you forget him? Next up, NASA. Yep, you read that right. Even NASA has shaded Gwyneth in the past. It all started when Goop began promoting body vibe stickers, which according to Gizmodo, claimed to use quote NASA's spacesuit material to rebalance the energy frequency in our bodies. But it turned out that it was a load of BS, like pretty much everything else on the site. After some backlash, Body Vibes got rid of the NASA claim, claiming it was an error by the distributor. Goop addressed the error in a statement, writing, quote, "Our content is meant to highlight unique products and offerings, find open-minded alternatives, and encourage conversation." Which I guess is exactly what happened, cause hey, we're talking about it at the end of the day. Next up, Vanity Fair. Gwyneth Paltrow generally has a pretty good relationship with the tabloids. However, her relationship with Vanity Fair is so bad that she tried to get her A-list friends to blacklist the magazine. Apparently, the entire feud between them was because the magazine published a story about Gwyneth that was not approved by her. And although it's a nice gesture for a magazine to show you their stories beforehand, it's certainly not something that celebrities are entitled to. According to page 6, the feud was between Paltrow and the magazine's editor at the time, Graydon Carter. She was asked by Carter to collaborate on the content for their cover story, but Gwyneth decided to refuse because they had recently done an unflattering story on one of her ex-partners, Brad Pitt. When Paltrow turned down the offer, he decided to go along with publishing the piece anyway, much to Paltrow's dismay. In response to this, Gwyneth sent out an email to a slew of her A-list friends, telling them to blacklist the magazine. The tab reported that one quote from the email read, quote, "Vanity Fair is threatening to put me on the cover of their magazine. If you are asked for quotes or comments, please decline. Also, I recommend you all never do this magazine again." Apparently, this semi-threatening email did not make Carter back down, and it only made him want to publish the piece even more, commenting that the media does not have to look out for celebrities. Next up, Joan Rivers. Everyone knows that you should not mess with Joan Rivers unless you want to feel the heat, and it seems that Paltrow learned that the hard way. Joan's show Fashion Police is where she dished out most of the shade about celebrities. I miss that show so much. The feud between them started when Gwyneth made some digs at Joan's expense. In 2013, Gwyneth told Harper's Bazaar that she'd quote never do Botox again because she looked crazy, which is fine, but then she added quote, "I looked like Joan Rivers." And of course, after making comments like that, Joan's gonna clap back. And she took it out on a number of Gwyneth's outfits on Fashion Police. After some back and forth, Joan went on an episode of Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. When asked which celebrity gave the worst criticism of Fashion Police, Joan said, quote, "The worst criticism was Gwyneth Paltrow. She came in and yelled at us, but she stood up. She can't sit down because she's got a stick up her rear end." Adding, quote, "So the world's most beautiful woman voted by Helen Keller and Stevie Wonder." So clearly it's more than just a little friendly fire, and the two really do not like each other. Next up, Simon Stevens. Simon Stevens is the chief executive of Britain's National Health Service, and we're talking about him today because he called out Gwyneth for the health treatments that she was promoting through Goop. During a 2020 event at Oxford, he took the time to trash the claims that Gwyneth was making on her Goop blog, along with her Netflix series, The Goop Lab. Stevens claimed that Gwyneth conveyed quote considerable risks to health because she gave credence to quote quacks, charlatans, and cranks while promoting various untested wellness products and services. Some of his least favorite treatments promoted by Gwyneth are colonic irrigation and DIY coffee enema machines, which sound truly horrible. Stevens stressed that almost none of the claims she makes are backed up by science. Stevens definitely has a point, because Goop was actually forced to pay $145,000 in a settlement for false advertising, so he's not the only one doubting what she's selling. And lastly, Gwyneth Paltrow herself. Because Gwyneth was born into fame and fortune, she's grown up with the press and people watching her every move. That's why she makes a point to care as little as possible about what people say about her and do her own thing. However, this free attitude does get her into a lot of trouble with the public that find her snobby and out of touch. Sometimes Gwyneth can even find herself pretty insufferable. She told the Sunday Times' Style magazine that it took until age 40, quote, "to start getting my head out of my Gwyneth has been open about the fact that fame changed her for the worst, and she didn't like herself a lot of points in the past. Apparently after the success of Shakespeare in Love, she got insanely more famous and became her worst self. When speaking about her post-Oscar life, she said, quote, "Look, I'm famous. I get famous person treatment. You don't want to be an a-hole, but slowly if people start removing obstacles for you, if you live in a world where you never have to sit in line, where people don't confront you, where they don't tell you the truth, that's what you become. That's what I became. Luckily my dad burst my bubble for me in a way that it could never be reconstructed."